Here's we is once more again. At least that's what my family used to say. Doing my favourite thing, which is sewing dresses. I'm actually in a bit of a creative rut, I suppose. I've been very creative recently, like literally just yesterday I went rug tufting. And I love making dresses. They are literally my favourite thing to make. I love making dresses. But it's not the dress I want to make right now. I've ordered some very special fabric that is coming from Japan. So it's not going to arrive for a while. So I can't make the dress that I really want to make.
I am, of course, talking about that Snoopy fabric from last video. I don't always post in order, by the way.
So I'm making a different dress because I have everything I need to make said dress. Remember this? I mean, I didn't use it that long ago, but remember I said I just kept adding meters to the basket until I got free shipping because I'd rather pay for fabric than shipping. Yeah, so I had extra. I didn't really know how much extra. The dress I've currently made in this fabric, my Valentine's dress, is long sleeve. It's more of a wintry, it's a high neck, more of a wintry kind of style that I wanted to do a summer counterpart, and I've decided this is the pattern. The reason I've decided this is the pattern, I bought this when I was living in New York. I got it super cheap. I quite like New Look patterns. They're definitely more affordable. I think they're in the same company side as Vogue and that kind of thing, and I like Vogue are my absolute favourite, but they're expensive, and I definitely recognise Vogue are expensive because I gasp at the prices most of the time, but they are my favourite patterns. But I do quite like New Look, and they are definitely on the more affordable side. But yeah, I don't know how much a New Look pattern will set you back in the UK. I know I bought this when this was on sale, I think for $1.99. I'm not convinced, but it would have only been $3.99 if it wasn't on sale. So they are definitely on the cheaper side of patterns. Because I added so much of this fabric to the basket, it's a crepe. I went through all the patterns that I have that one of the suggested fabrics is crepe. This is one of them. And then I decided to separate them into ones I haven't yet made and the ones I have made, and chose from the ones I haven't yet made yet, because why do I have all these patterns that I've not made yet sitting around? I have now created, or like collated I suppose, all of my patterns, most of my patterns. I've got some vintage ones that obviously I won't be able to find, but most of my patterns I've pinned on Pinterest, and I've actually sorted them out into like costumes and already made and not yet made. So this is one that I'm hoping to move across very soon. Now, another reason why this is great is the collar has two little buttons, and my last dress had the buttons on the sleeve, and I took the buttons that I rescued from my wedding dress and I coloured them in with peach Sharpie, and they go really nicely. So yeah, I have like, I actually did count them. I think it's around 40. So I've used 10 already. So this is another 2. So I still have a load of buttons. It'll be weird when I run out, I think. The other notion that this dress requires is a 22-inch zip. I decided, you know what, instead of doing another invisible zip, because I do those all the time, let's make a statement zip. Let's get this red lacy zip and actually have it on the outside and make a feature of it. It might not look great, but that's the design choice we're going with, and hopefully it'll pay off. Thread wise, I've still got leftover thread, in fact quite a lot of it. I think I should have enough because this isn't a particularly large dress. I'm doing option C, the little short one with the puff sleeves, but if it takes more than the pink, I do have 2 different shades of red. One's more wine burgundy, one's like a true red, which of course I'll use whichever one tones best. When I say that, obviously I'll be stitching on the outside and you'll see the stitching, so red will be used for that because it will look better. Yeah, everything's cut out. I've semi-read the instructions. I don't know if my brain is in just do mode or if I'm gonna have to consult every step, so we'll see. I suppose the best thing to do is just get started. Yeah, if I leave this camera on, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna chat. So I'm gonna rearrange, and so, oh, I do need to switch out my needle. I have a denim needle still on my machine. In theory, you should use a new needle for every project, but that's a lot of waste in my opinion. So I will keep them until they break or blunt so badly. This only was a brand new needle on my sister's wedding guest dress. It was a really super fine needle to stitch through satin and not like punch threads. So I think it will work well on the crepe. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to keep talking, so let's rearrange.
I'm not really familiar with this sort of pattern or style. I really have gone down the route of making like 50s big skirted type dresses for quite a while now. So I don't really have any additional insights other than I followed the pattern pretty much as it was written.
When I sew the first or the intended garment for the fabric that I've bought, I'm meticulous at making sure the grain line is the right direction, the pattern's the right direction, or all in the same direction if it's like a non-direction pattern. Notches are cut out correctly, all of that. Unless I've messed up and I've not got enough fabric, or when I'm doing my second project, I'm less meticulous. Reason being is I'm usually trying to squeeze a project that might not actually necessarily fit in the leftover fabric. This one obviously did, but I saw a gap where I'm like, that sleeve absolutely fits. Yeah, but that's my notch. I'm glad I'm like pinning it the day I cut it out. So I remembered I did that, because I would not have remembered this a few days away. Do I finish that seam first? It'll be easier. Alright. What time are we? It's getting late, isn't it? I might do some seam finishes and pleat the sleeves and then call it a night, because it's getting late and I'm tired. It's bank holiday Monday though, so I can have a lie-in and I can resume this tomorrow. Oh, I have a cookie. It's a pistachio chocolate cookie. Harry got it from on his travels. They're really good, but they're not super pistachio-y. You get mostly chocolate. No.
Guys, I need to stop filming things in time-lapse because I can't even see what I'm doing here. I think I'm assembling the sleeves and then attaching them to the bodice. And like I said, I was doing seam finishes as I went. This crepe does have a tendency to fray. Oh, now it looks like I'm doing the skirt. Yeah, I need to stop doing time lapses. Oh, it's nearly a whole dress there, look. Here I'm clearly doing the facing around that neck. The facing was kind of like both a binding and a facing at the same time. And again, I have no additional insights other than I followed the pattern.
So I'm about to do kind of a first ever. I have done an exposed lace zip before, but that was on a bag. That wasn't too long ago either. But this is on a garment. I have switched my stitch length to 4. I usually don't bother adjusting the tension. I know most people do. I'm just gonna run up the back. Right, I should check on the outside that the seams all line up and that kind of thing. Not that you actually will see it on this one. Like that. Cool. So I'm now gonna quickly press open that back seam. Probably I'll also go along and then press under, like halve it and press it under, like this kind of finish. That's open and then they're pressed underneath. Part of my seam finishing will be done at the same time as attaching the zip, in theory. Just checking the length. So at the moment, my basting stitch goes all the way down to here. I want it to stop a couple inches higher. It'll be fine. It'll be really easy to get this garment on. I just apparently don't have a long enough zip. / I don't tend to bother with hook and eye. The other thing I'll do while I'm here with the machine is I'm just gonna seam finish from this point down. It'll be easier now than it will once the zip is on. If I've never done a pattern before, I do prefer to do split seam finishes. Allows you to adjust. Oh no! Did I do that whole thing? Right. Ah, that was annoying. So technically I had one bob and chicken on the last one, but I just didn't notice and did a whole seam with no actual sewing. Take 2. Now we're done. Right. So the last thing I think I want to do, as you can see how this is flopping up, is I think I just want to run, literally do a running stitch and tack that down. I'm gonna actually do it in red. Reason being is I have a feeling it's gonna be really difficult to get out once I've sewn the zip on. So if it shows at the front, right, at least it's red and you won't really notice it. Okay, so that's now all tacked. I have pinned under the end of the tape, but matched it up so you kind of see the lace. I like to hand stitch zips in place before I put it onto the machine, so just tacking it, lining the teeth up with that seam. You get the gist. I'm gonna pause this and do this off camera, but I'm gonna pin it, then hand baste it with bright green, and then I'll bring it back. That took way too long. We are in, it's still stitched in there. I like to stitch these down whilst the tacking stitches are in. I know some people remove them beforehand because they prefer to do it in an open configuration. Just standard zipper foot for this one. Mine looks like that. It just allows the teeth to get a little bit nearer. And we're going to do 2 rows, one near and then one further away to keep the end of the tape down. We're going to reinforce the bottom as well.
Oh, and here are the shots of me doing just that. Line 1 of stitching right next to the teeth, and line 2 of stitching to keep the tape down. Remove the basting stitches, they're those bright green ones, and then it's time for probably my favourite part of zipper installation.
And the satisfying bit is actually taking out those basting stitches, holding the 2 black pieces together. Right. Hopefully, yeah. This is probably the easiest way, I think, putting in a zip. So if you're a new, not necessarily an exposed one, you can do this on the inside as well with like a regular zip. If you're like new to putting in zips, this method of basting up the seam and then lining up the middle is kind of foolproof. Okay. I'm going to carry on unpicking, but you don't need to see the rest of that. I got to a point where I got the zip in and everything. I thought, I haven't tried this on to check that it fits. Now, I cut a size bigger. I always cut a size bigger based on my measurements. Not even like what I think my size is. I based it off my measurements. And a little red flag did pop up when I was trying to work out what size, because it said like whatever measurements your body should be to be the 16 or 18 or whatever. And I was trying to find the final garment measurements. It's on the tissue paper itself. It's not written down in a graph or a table or whatever. It's printed on the tissue that's used to cut out your pieces. And it's on the pieces itself. So like front bodice had your bust final garment measurement on it. I think actually that one is also on the back of the packet, but only the bust measurement, not the rest of them. And I found the waist one on the front skirt piece. I didn't see the hip one. Now, I'm a hippie girly. I have what some people call childbearing hips, despite the fact that I am very much child-free and will always be child-free. Yeah, that's usually the place where I struggle with fit. It's not that I'm even like massively pear-shaped, because I float between like a pear and an hourglass kind of shape. It's just I know I carry my weight there. Maybe it's because I've got a bit more of a butt, I don't know. But yeah, it did not fit round my hips, despite the fact that it was a size bigger than what my hips are. And actually, what I think is happening, because there is a bit that would fit around my hips, but it's lower down on the skirt. So the skirt, instead of sitting where it's meant to, kind of sits up a bit. So I've got like extra like fabric kind of sitting here. I don't have enough fabric to recut, not even 2 pieces. I did have leftover, just not enough length to do that. Maybe if I'd done it in a different direction. Definitely not enough to do the whole skirt. Simplest solution, because the zip was in nicely and everything, was to cut 2 triangles and put in Go Days on the side, which is what I did by hand. That's not my dress, that's my dress. That's just the leftover fabric. I'll put you away, I don't need you anymore. I hope. hand basted these in. It's not something I usually do, but seeing as that the issue was fit, I was like, let's just hand, and I didn't really measure anything. I just was like, oh, kind of triangle, that looks nice. And the length of the skirt, and I'll hand tack it in. Did that whilst I watched Andor with my husband. So there's my triangle. It is a bit longer because I can always cut it down. And yeah, that solved it, that fits. So gonna run that through the machine now. Really, all that's left is running those seams through. Like I said, I've only hand basted them, but that'll be super quick. Neckline, hem, and 2 buttons. That's fine, that's easy. Except the front seam. The rest of it's fine, but the front centre seam, it looks, can you see how one side looks like it's dragging? And because it's down the front centre, it's so freaking obvious. So I may have to unpick that and re-sew it, pulling the fabric, not out. The mad thing is that's not even like, it's a slightly on the bias, it's not the true bias though. So the fact that it's dragging like that is bizarre to me. But yeah, I'm basically reconstructing the skirt now that it's on, so it's more awkward. But the zip is in nicely. I'm happy with the zip. I would like to finish this tonight. So what I'm gonna do, the 4 Godet seams, give it a press with the iron. See if I can't encourage some of that wrinkling out. Might then try it on real quick. If it looks fine, then great, moving on. If not, that front seam is being ripped out and sewn again. Then neck finish and hem finish. And the hem, I'm going to do the bias tape method of hemming. I could just do a rolled hem, but I do have a decent amount of bias tape that I made out of this stuff. I think it will add a little bit of extra weight on that skirt, and this being a shorter dress will help keep it down.
You can also buy chain and like sew that inside your hem or bias tape to help keep skirts down. That's what the royals do anyway.
So good news, the pressing worked and I don't need to undo that seam and redo it. I just got dressed in my pyjamas because why would I put my clothes back on after trying a garment on? In the summer, it's not unheard of sewing in your underwear. Neck and hem, and then a few little hand bits, so like to sew on the buttons because they're a shank button style, and also because I'd seam finished it and that top corner just needs a little bit of needs a little unpicking and then finishing off up there so it's nice and there's not a hole in the side. Looks like, touch wood, I might actually finish this today. So, what are my thoughts? It's cute, but some dresses, when I finish making them, I want to wear them immediately, and it's been like 2 months since I've finished making it till filming this. The weather wasn't the best for it, but equally I just didn't want to wear it. Not really any reason. I think part of it was because I cut the size up and then it was still tight across my hips that I had to add the Godets in, that kind of knocked my confidence a bit, even though I did foresee a problem when I was cutting it out because they didn't have the final garment measurements for the hips. They did the waist and the bust but not the hips, and I was like, there's going to be an issue here. I think the Godets are in, they're fine, they make it wearable, but like even though there's enough space around the bust, you can see that this line is sitting too high. Like really it should be under the bust, so I didn't do a full bust adjustment, so there's enough space but it's not in the right place. So that's down to the fact that most patterns are cut for a B cup and I am not a B cup, so I really should do a full bust adjustment when I am doing bodices like this. It's actually part of the reason why I love
the Very Easy Vogue or the Vogue multi-pattern sizes. I think they're just so easy to get. They just fit me better. The Vogue generally. Princess seams are also much easier to fit if you have a princess seam dress. But yeah, the underbust, I have it with every underbust pattern I have. I find them harder to fit on my body. I like them and I really like the look of them. I think that's why I keep buying them, but I don't take the time always to adjust the pattern properly. So it fits, it's cute, I'll wear it, but it's not my favourite. It's weirdly, it's kind of too loose and too tight at the same time, which is hard to explain. So it's too loose as it drops down and doesn't really puff up, but because it drops down, then it's restrictive. So it feels both too loose and too tight. Again, if that was more fitted, maybe I'd like that better. I do like that this fabric tones very nice with my new Vivaia trainers, the ballerina pumps that Gigi had did, and so many other people have worn. I'm sure you've seen them. They are actually really comfortable. Like, I've really bought a second pair. I actually really, really love them, and they're made out of recycled plastic, so good for the environment. So yeah, I recommend them. And yeah, the fabric tones with them so well, and they do make me feel like I want to do ballet constantly. So reliving my childhood ballerina dreams. I think part of the issue was I went into this project not wanting to make this dress. Not that I didn't want to make this dress. It was on my list. It was something I was gonna make. But the dress I really wanted to make, I was waiting for the fabric.
That was the aforementioned Snoopy fabric from last video.
And I now have it. This was fun. I like sewing this fabric. This fabric's actually really nice to sew. Yeah, just not my favourite. Simple as, but I will wear it and it's cute. So if you enjoyed this video, more than me apparently, come again and hobby along with me. Bye!